Hello, welcome you all. This is just an impromptu live stream. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions, anything that you have. I hope more of you will join us soon. If you do, please post a comment so that I can respond to it, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. I'll wait a few minutes for people to join in, and then if there is no one here in a few minutes, then obviously I will end the live stream. But let's hope that some of you join us. And while you're joining us, as you can see, the channel is growing pretty constantly. The content is a bit more diversified now because, I've committed myself to the cause of Palestinian people. So I've been building a body of work about that. But even that is, in my opinion, educational content. So would love to respond to any questions that you might have about research, about postcolonial studies, critical pedagogy, or anything else that's on your mind. So as you come in, please say hi in the chat and I will respond to you and we'll go from there. Thank you so much for joining me. As I said, this was an impromptu chat. An impromptu live stream. So I need to do a better job of advertising it. But sometimes these days, I just have to wait until I have some time. So when I do, I decide to do these things. So welcome. 3 people are here. So let's hope you all have some questions. Just introduce yourselves and let me know where you're joining from. All right. So while you're joining in, if you're new to the channel, just keep in mind that there are over 1,000 videos on the channel now. And most of them, I would say 900 at least, are educational videos. And they're all organized under different playlists: writing tips, critical pedagogy, Edward Said, Paulo Freire, literary theory. So if you're ever having trouble finding materials on the channel, just go to the playlists and you will find that most of the videos are very well organized in the playlists. So I'll wait for any questions that you might have. Okay. So as you can see, this is not me coming up with a planned topic. It is a Q&A, so I'll be happy to answer. And we have History Discover. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you so much and welcome to the channel. And let me know where you are joining from. Oh, it's okay. Welcome. Marhaba. If you're in Palestine, I'm seeing all your comments. So I guess so far you're getting through the censors. I hope you're safe and your family is safe, but welcome to join us. And anyone else, please feel free to, as I was saying earlier, lately on the channel, I have, started developing a body of work in solidarity with people of Palestine. And it's political, but it's also educational. And I will continue doing so for as long as, I'm capable. So I'm curious what you think about the two-state solution. In my personal opinion, it seems like a Native American style Indian reservation for us to rot away in. Well, personally, there is an ideal solution which Edward Said also proposed, and a lot of others, which would be a one state solution where Jews and Palestinians and Arabs live together. In my opinion, pragmatically speaking, a two state solution with the 1948 borders and a fully autonomous Palestinian state, I think is more viable. And that's what my pragmatic stance is. I mean, philosophically speaking, I don't even believe in nation states. But in terms of pragmatics of what is possible and could be achieved, it's the two state solution for me. All right, thank you. There are 8 people here. So please feel free to share any questions that you might have. It can be about research, it can be about what you're working on right now, or of course, current affairs. I'll be happy to answer those. Okay, history discover, I guess, I mean, that's your lived experience. I respect that. Uh, but I guess I stated my position already, and it's not a secret. It's in my writings as well as, on this channel. So I will leave it at that. I'm not here to debate anyone. All right. Anyone else, if you have any questions? All right. So while you all think about any questions, I also wanted to let you know that I've revamped my podcast, which is available on Spotify as well as on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. And it's called Postcolonial Space. And there are about 175 episodes already on it because I had previously started extracting the sound from my videos, editing it, and then creating podcast episodes. But I just launched a new season, season 6, which is going to be all Paulo Freire. And so far, I've uploaded 9 episodes. So if you're interested in just listening to conversations on literary topics, but also on Paulo Freire, I highly recommend you to check out the podcast. And you can either search it by my name, Masood Raja, or just put post-colonial space in there and it should show up. All right. So I'll wait a few more minutes for any questions, and if not, then maybe I'll sign off. Ishtiaq Ahmed, welcome. I wanted to ask if the idea of democracy and liberalism is being completely exposed in contemporary world. Does the world need a more raging approach from the I'm trying to read it from the subaltern to ensure its freedom and liberty? I mean, democracy will always be in crisis because it's a participatory system and it's not a fixed system, because it needs people being aware of their rights but also of their responsibilities. I don't see any other system that I could live in or agree with. I don't believe in any kind of theocracies. I don't believe in any kind of autocratic systems or inherited systems. So, but we already know that democracy is an imperfect project. But can it be made better? Yes, if it's a participatory democracy and it constantly can keep improving. So I don't see that democracy per se is in crisis. I think Western liberalism is under crisis. And that is because of the hypocrisy of the powers, United States and Europe. But as a system, political system, I think democratic systems, to me personally, I prefer a democracy over any kind of efficient autocratic systems. So that's my take on it. I mean, it's not a deeply philosophical take on it, but I will never give up on democracy as a form of governance or government, with a caveat that it can always be improved. And I will never support any form of theocratic or autocratic systems. Good question, though. I mean, it makes one think, right? Especially like in current situations when United States and the Western democracies are, literally dragging their feet while people are being killed and starved. But on the other hand, we have people stepping up as well. All right. So let me know where you are joining from. I know History Discover, you said you're Palestinian, but are you actually in the West Bank or Gaza? I'm not sure. Ishtiaq Ahmed, where are you joining us from? And so looks like the
How to
stream.
bend nature to your will.
Oh,
It starts
sorry.
with a battery system, one that's made for the outdoors. Make sure it's powerful, more powerful. Tap the experts.
Thank you, Ishtiaq. Sorry if you couldn't see me. Probably YouTube was playing an ad here. And but yeah, I mean, I completely understand that liberalism is in crisis. And I don't consider myself a liberal. I'm a leftist intellectual. And I'm deeply socialist in my leanings, but even my socialist leanings are not connected to a central party or a centralized system. My socialist leanings are within the parameters of a democratic system. But I do think that what Gaza has shown us is the crisis of Western liberalism and hypocrisy of the American system. Okay, so Susan, welcome. Thank you. I understand better now why two-state solution is a good solution. Yeah, Susan, and also history discover. I mean, I don't think so. It's a good solution. I mean, look, I philosophize, I think about things, right? And ideally, in an ideal world, two people should be able to live together in peace, right? So for that, the current group, the Israelis, will have to accept the Palestinians as equal human beings, fully realized citizens. On the other hand, the Palestinians will have to rethink their grievances and say, okay, you are here, you built a country, you took our land, but let's live together. Now, that's the ideal situation of a one state solution. Is it possible? Probably not. So, what is the next solution? Because the current status quo is not tenable and it is immoral. State of Israel cannot have West Bank and Gaza under military occupation in perpetuity. That is not a good political or moral solution. So, the solution then, in my humble opinion, is a two-state solution. And the roadmap is already there after Oslo and Oslo 2. We have a UN resolution and a Security Council resolution on it. We go back to the 1948 plan and try to convince both sides to agree to it. What is the 1948 plan? That we go to the borders drawn by United Nations, where Israeli state has its own territory and the Palestinian state has its own territory. Now, in that plan, Jerusalem was supposed to be governed by United Nations. It was supposed to be an international city. Maybe we can modify it where East Jerusalem becomes the capital of State of Palestine. But I think it's a viable plan because Israelis have already built the wall on the Green Line, pre-1967 border. So why are they pushing people across the wall that they themselves built, right, to take over the West Bank? I have a whole video on the settlement movement, right? So in my opinion, I think the two-state solution is the more practical and viable solution. And of course, that's just my opinion, who no one cares what I think, right? But as a scholar, that's where I stand, right? But thank you for your questions. All right. Looks like people are joining in. We have 9 people here already. Please, yeah, introduce yourselves. And if you have any questions, let me know and I will try to answer those. Okay. All right. Sorry, I don't have a topic for this live stream today. I decided just to do a general Q&A. And of course, for that, I need your questions. But while you're here, I'm glad that you're here, and I'm hoping that you all have subscribed to the channel. So please keep exploring the channel because as I said, you know, there are a lot of materials here that could be useful to you if you're a student, a scholar or an activist, because these are some of the roles that I fill, and so it's guided by all of my academic and political interests. And if you see a cat walking around behind me, that's Oliver. He's my cat. He's my roommate, and I think he has trained himself that anytime I'm sitting in front of my computer, he tries to get my attention, even though he eats all the time. So, okay. I'm keeping an eye on the chat, both on screen and on my phone, because sometimes it gets delayed.
Test the limit. The Echo E-Force battery system.
I don't know. I think YouTube is playing some ads here. So yeah, it looks like, yeah, YouTube is putting some ads here. I didn't tell them to do that, but I guess that's how it works. So okay, if you have just joined in, please introduce yourself in the comment section and let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer those. But in about 5 minutes, if we don't have any questions, I'll probably end the live stream. But I'll make it kind of a live feature from now on. I mean, regular feature. Mostly, I think I can do it on Saturdays, but I'll try to announce it well in advance. But in the meantime, if you're just joining in, please use the comment section to introduce yourself. Let me know where you're coming from. And of course, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those. Okay. So, I'll wait for about 5 minutes, and then if there are no questions, then I'll sign off and maybe come back next week and have a focused topic so that we can have a better interaction. Hi, Shamsu. Welcome. I hope I said your name right. Uh, so, welcome from Detroit. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions or anything that you would like to share. All right. Truth and light. Welcome. How could the Jews bring colonizing others? Even the Quran and the supposedly Prophet Muhammad states indigenous people of the Middle East. Uh, I, I have no answer to that question, because my question isn't who is indigenous. My question is how the Palestinian people are treated. I have no problem with Jewish people living in the state of Israel. My problem simply is that it should not presuppose that the Palestinians need to be evicted or need to be less than anyone else. Other than that, whichever prophet promised anyone whatever they promised, I have no time for prophets. I just look at how people's lives are right now. And, personally, as a secular scholar, I practically, have no idea how God can give something to someone. So that's my answer to it. But thank you so much for your question. I mean, it is kind of a, this question comes up a lot, and I personally have no answer to that. But to me, as a scholar of colonialism, it is a colonial situation. Whether Prophet Muhammad or Moses promised it, that's not my concern. I look at the material realities. Okay, I think your questions are geared towards eliciting a kind of response which obviously I'm not really either qualified to respond to or, you know, or say anything. Clearly, you already know the answers to these questions. And obviously, I don't have the answers. If you want my detailed political views, they are published and they are also in my videos. But there are some really good books. If you want to really know what happened to the Nazis and how they thought of themselves, there's a wonderful book by Roberto Esposito, and Giorgio Agamben has a beautiful book on it too. So I highly recommend that you read those people because they have a philosophical way of looking at the material causes. And do keep in mind that to me, as a scholar, the Holocaust was the greatest human tragedy of 20th century, perpetuated by a modern state against the Jewish people. And and that absolutely, was horrible and wrong and evil. Shamsu, no, but Walter Rodney is on my list, but I haven't read any of his work. Yeah, I mean, I haven't read, how Europe underdeveloped Africa, but with, other activists of his time, especially um, the Black Panthers and others, I'm familiar with them, but I have not read their work more carefully. But now that you mention it, I will definitely read it over this summer. Okay, so why, according to you, is the world going through a far right radical political? Is majority populism a made up concept or identity process? Well, I mean, if you watch my video on global neoliberalism and globalization, and if you read a couple of books on the precariat and on neoliberalism, post 1970s, the state stopped expanding its redemptive functions. So, what do we need to create viable democracies, right? We need critical education. We need a kind of education which enables people to think morally about their neighbors, but also to think critically about the system. And then we need a state that takes care of its people. When the state takes away its redemptive functions and privatizes them, then state also loses its legitimizing power. And so private actors take over. So if the state is not going to come to your aid when there is a disaster, or not going to help you, who is going to take care of you? The local charities, the religious organizations, and that increases the influence of the private social groups. And if those social groups tend to be deeply religious or religiously aligned, those are the kind of subjectivities that will be generated. So the rise of this populist right, but also just the conservative religious right, in a way, it's not a causal connection, but there is a connection to liberal economics and withdrawal of the state from the public sphere. There's a beautiful book by John Rapley on neoliberalism. I have a video on it too. I think if you read that, you will get the sense of where I am coming from to this. Susan, I'm a 65 from Connecticut and stand with the sign Free Palestine at intersection and rush hour in my town every weekday. Your video on remembering that we are a voice for Palestinians and how to respond is helpful. Thank you so much, first of all, for doing what you do. Having been in the trenches, I know what happens, right? There are thousands of people who support me and will support you too, but we also get a lot of hate. On this channel, I get a lot of hate. Most of it I do not share because I don't respond to hateful content. But thank you so much for doing that. And remember, it doesn't matter who we are, what our ethnicity, what our religion, what our age. We do not need anyone's permission to stand in solidarity with any people who are oppressed. And the messages that I am getting through my friends and people from Palestine or people of Palestinian origin, every little thing that you do is a sign of hope that the world, which is you and me, has not abandoned the cause of Palestine. And and so thank you for what you do. And I know it requires a lot of resilience and it requires a lot of courage. But those are the things that, in my opinion, if more and more of us did that, will change the world. Now, my caution always is that whatever we do, it has to be out of love. When I record something, even critical of Netanyahu and others, it's not out of hate, it's for my love for justice and equality and for the Palestinian people. That's a stance that I have taken. It may not be a popular stance, but what do we have? Our bodies and our voice, right? And we are living in a historical moment where we need to use that. So, Susan, thank you so much for doing what you do. And Shamsu, I will definitely read Walter Rodney. I mean, I've skimmed through his book, but I will read him and the other Black writers of that period over this summer. Pam, welcome, Pam. Hello, Dr. Raja. Thank you for your work, and also thank you for inviting us to join you in bearing witness to the atrocities being committed against the beloved people of Palestine. So, thank you so much, Pam. And you all know, I mean, how traumatizing such events can be, right? Um, the attacks by Hamas, of course, were terrible and traumatizing and hurtful to people. And of course, I condemned it because I will never, ever condone any acts of violence against people, civilians, and children. But then what unfolded after that, I mean, watching that and seeing that, to me, uh, as someone who's a combat veteran, but also a scholar, right, I had to make a choice. And the choice was, this is a historical moment of truth. Do I just stay quiet and keep peddling academic cliches, you know, or do I build a body of work, not published or written, but in this medium, right, where so that more people can access it and do it with love, right, and care. It wasn't a light decision. You all know United States. I mean, technically, I am unhireable now, right? But it was a life-defining decision to put my voice out there. It may not be of any impact. I mean, we all we feel powerless in this world, right? Of implacable hate. But the strength is this solidarity, right? This love that we can give to each other. I think that keeps us going. And I realize the impact just these videos can have, right? And I mentioned it in one of my videos. When I did my video using Phenon, right? It's a 30-minute video, I think. If I had published an article even in a popular magazine, it would have probably stayed on their website for a week or 2 weeks and then would have receded down because new content comes. 85,000 people have watched that video. Over 500 have responded to it, right? So, one 30-minute video, carefully recorded and produced with a little bit of knowledge, right? Using just the basic equipment has reached more than 85,000 people. So I know materially it still may not have any impact, but it did two things, right? Even though we never do things to feel good, right? It gave me a purpose. I have some knowledge, I have some tools. So it gave me a purpose to speak with a constituency, which is the people of Gaza. And it then brought people to itself, right? In an act of love and sharing. So, in the end, you know, it's not enough, but it's better than not doing anything, right? Shamsu. So, Franz Fanon, Wretched of the Earth, was required reading in the Black Panthers. Yes, absolutely. Panthers had read it, and Che had read it. And yes, Wretched of the Earth was phenomenal and still is. And if you're curious, I have a couple of videos on academic videos on Fanon that you can watch. And but like the idea is to do whatever we do, all kinds of activism, to do it out of love. And yes, we all get angry, right? But to channel that anger into constructive activism and constructive work. whatever is in our capacity, right? We never can do more than what we are capable of, right? Because there are intellectual and material limits on what we can do. But to barely do what we can, I think, is enough for one human life, right? And so that's how I see it. And yes, I mean, if I shared with you like the kind of comments, the hateful comments that I get, which are, of course, are filtered and I delete them. If I just dwelt on that, it will break my spirit. But then there are thousands of people who see some value in what I'm doing, right? And who send me their support and their love. And that is important for us to remember that we need to support each other emotionally and with our words, right? Because there is this is a perilous terrain, right, of intellectual work and activist work, and a lot of hate will be thrown at us. What will sustain us is the love that we send to each other, I think. Donna, great to see you. Thank you for all you do and for helping us and all good people. And thank you so much, Donna. Thank you for joining us here and for commenting because, we all are going through this prolonged engagement with something that we cannot control, which we feel powerless. I mean, think of it. There are people living in tents being bombed. Of course, our situation is not as terrible as that, right? And we cannot stop it. And that makes us feel powerless. But at the same time, we are trying to build a consensus, build an alliance of different people from all over the world, right? And that's what I put my hope in how the world, decent human beings of this world, can come together to this cause, right? And imagine how it has grown, right? Pam, what do you think about the latest peace deal proposal? It seems like it's something that could lead to more colonial settler activity. So I'm deeply skeptical of all the peace proposals that United States puts together because it never really gives an equal hearing to the Palestinian people. And I will never ever agree to a kind of peace plan that creates a little banana republic of Palestine and Israelis are still roaming around in their APCs and tanks, right? That is what America has been pushing. That's the plan Clinton was pushing on Arafat, right? And then in return, they expected him to give up the right of return. So I think any hasty peace proposals cannot be shoved down the throats of Palestinian people. If they want peace, it will have to be a dignified peace with a viable Palestinian state. So that's where I stand, I think. And it will have to be, a genuine peace effort and not a band aid, right? Look, I voted for Biden and I found him seriously disappointing. Disappointing not because he doesn't have the foresight, disappointing because he ended up being equally as hypocritical as anyone else. I mean, how can you draw a red line and then keep moving it, right? How can you not see the suffering of a people? Like United Nations is saying that people of Gaza are starving, and your State Department is saying we don't have definitive proof for that. So I think it is when history writes about this, and history is written about this, this will be, remembered as an ultimate act of cowardice by United States of America. I think that's how history will remember it. So Susan, yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, we know that these politicians, including the presidents, they are not autonomous. We also know that larger than us interests govern their actions. But at the end of the day, they come to us seeking our vote, right? They need that vote, right, to then go and do whatever they want to do. And that's where, you know, ideally, yes, I agree with you, Carol. Cornel West is the only candidate um, who is honorable enough, right, and learned enough and compassionate enough. So I'll probably vote for him too. I will not vote for Biden. And obviously, I cannot vote for Trump, right? So, I mean, I think it will be my Democratic friends are trying to convince me that it will destroy democracy and Trump will win. And, at a certain point, I realized that it's not threat of Trump. I have to take a principled stand where I say openly here and with my vote that you failed us and you let people die, and that I will not vote for you no matter what the consequences. I mean, that's where I am. It's not out of anger, it's after deep deliberation and thought. So good, Carolyn. Thank you. And okay, so I guess I've been going for about 40 minutes. So, Shamsu, what is needed is a strong independent party that can influence elections and force negotiations. Absolutely. I mean, we do need a strong third party, and a third party not owned by the corporate interest, but owned by the people. I mean, there has have been efforts all along. Let's hope in our lifetime that does happen. But we do need that. And so, thank you all. I think I'm going to stay on for another about 2, 3 minutes and then conclude because I think we've been going on for about 40 minutes. So, yes, Ishtiyaq, I mean, that's a really good question. What is the Gaza reconstruction? Who is going to be there? We don't know. And how will it be governed? Will we have settlements again? I mean, no one is sharing these details with us. Why can't they put the peace plan right on the internet so that we can read it and figure out what's going on? Why does it have to be a secret? Okay, so let's hope that doesn't happen, Susan. Uh, all right, so I think I'm going to sign off, but thank you all so much for joining me. And please remember, I'm constantly building up materials, my Palestine list, but also academic works on the channel. And every time, you know, you need some guidance or you have some suggestions, you can always post them under a video, and I do check and respond to the comments. Uh, so GMW, why not vote for Jill Stein? So yeah, I mean, if we are voting third party candidate, we can go with whatever suits us, other than Kennedy. Of course, I'm not voting for Kennedy. So, but I like Jill Stein's stance as well right now, especially on Gaza. So, okay then. So, thank you so much, you all, and I'm gonna call it a night. But I will try to make sure that this is a more regular feature, and maybe I'll announce it well in advance so that more people can join us. And okay, all right. So thank you, Susan, Donna. It's so okay that we are a community. Yes, Donna, absolutely. We are all a community, and thank you all for joining me. And I will keep doing my best. And thank you all for doing what you are doing. And maybe together we can, hope for a better world and for an honorable and dignified world for people of Palestine. That's all. Thank you. And as I always say in my recorded videos, peace and love.